Opinionated and now caffeinated. Wake Up Warchant is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed, Courtney, and their son, Brett, DeLuna Coffee is Florida State through and through. The pursuit of the perfect blend of coffee beans is a 365-day effort for the family, but they'll always find time to tailgate for their Noles in the autumn. Stand at attention for their red, white, and brew. In honor of armed forces, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, DeLuna has created this fair trade organic blend. Enjoy this premium French roast coffee and salute to the good old USA. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Promo code WARCHANT15. I think the FSU Spring 2021 promo for WarChant.com ends today, so use it if you are not a member of WarChant.com. If you're listening to us on YouTube, cool. Hit the thumbs up button. Don't be so crazy. If you're on iTunes, hopefully you got this. Apparently, Corey, a couple of our podcasts, I think the last two shows from last week, did not populate over onto iTunes. We are in the midst of troubleshooting and trying to figure out why that is. So bear with us if you're on your Apple device. Maybe pivot to warchant.com and check out the link on there. It's on the front page. So thanks for hanging tight with us. Also, Corey, how are you, first off?
I'm good, buddy. Hey, thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
Corey's in Indianapolis still. So that's super cool. Somebody posted a 5-star review, and the 5-star review basically was trying to tell us that I was wrong when it came to Jordan Wilson, that he had sustained a ruptured Achilles or some sort of Achilles injury is what kept him out of last season. But nonetheless, they enjoy our show so much they still felt it was cool, or, they just wanted to give us a 5-star review nonetheless. So that is how you do it, right? That's how you do it.
You can complain all you want as long as you 5-star it. You know what I mean? That's fine. If we get things wrong all the time. Half the time I don't remember your name. But we're still out here talking FSU sports. We're trying to be entertaining and insightful. Sometimes we miss the mark. Sometimes we misdiagnose injuries.
Corey's right though. He texted me, "Hey Asian, what time do you want to do the podcast?"
I don't call people that. I think that's just how my that's how the text populated the word. Obviously, Aslan isn't as a popular word as Asian. But remember when I used to think that was your name?
Yeah, man.
When you would tweet every now and again, when you would tweet at me back before I knew who you were, because I didn't know you from your first time in Tallahassee. Yeah. I thought it was Asian Hodges.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that must be an Asian guy that works in sports. That's cool. Yeah. But no, your name is Aslan actually.
That's right.
That I is an L.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. Let's get to it. There was a spring scrimmage on Saturday, which was open to not only the media, but large swaths of the public. I think there was probably over 100 people that were there on Saturday. There's a pretty thorough breakdown of what we saw, us being Gene Williams, Irish O'Fell, and myself. 20-minute video. Go check it out. Corey and I, I'm sure, will talk about it later on the podcast. But let's start off with basketball. Somebody on YouTube was like, how come you guys are talking about football when March Madness is going on? To which, there's a rhyme, there's a reason. We won't get too deep into it. But nonetheless, Corey is in Indianapolis, so let's utilize our proverbial boots on the ground, or literal boots on the ground. I could sense the angst almost in your tweet at halftime as Florida State had jumped out to a huge lead, but then saw it quickly evaporate to the mighty Spartans of UNC Greensboro. And, I was like, oh, come on, Corey, stay professional. But then I'm like, you know what? Our guy drove all the way up to Indianapolis and might have to turn around and come back home, and that would suck. I'd be a little bit pissed off too, but disaster was averted. Florida State beats Greensboro, 64-54. Did not hit one single three-pointer. I think last time they did that was against NC State. What I tweet you or text you? It was they said on the telecast, maybe 2018 or something.
3 years ago, February of 2018.
Yeah, so nonetheless, they found a way to survive and advance. That's all that matters, everybody. Ask Illinois how cool it was to stomp out whoever they played in the first round, then to probably get bounced 2 days later against Loyola of Chicago. So, Corey, watching that game, a lot of the sort of bad habits from the last part of the season are still there, but nonetheless, they won the game. I think they nearly covered, so I'm not that down about their prospects coming up today later on against Colorado. Where are you right now?
Yeah, the reason I was angsty, number one, angsty, that's a word, right? Angsty, is, it was a long trip. It was an 8-hour drive that turned into a 10-hour drive because I timed it up just in time to hit 2 different cities' rush hours. So that was fun. Then we drove. So I didn't get a hotel in the city for the first 2 days in Indianapolis. I got one in the suburbs. And I told Stephanie that it was by the airport. So without even looking at the reservation, we just programmed Spring Hill Suites, Indianapolis Airport. And like most major cities, the airport isn't right downtown. Yeah. So we get there, don't have my name at all. And I look at my mail finally, and we're at a completely different Spring Hill Suites. And you're like, okay, well, it's got to be close. Nope, it was 45 minutes away.
Oh.
We were in the northern suburbs is where we were supposed to be. We had driven to the southern suburbs. So it was in a good hour out of our day. So we get to the Spring Hill Suites, and they don't have our room. They had a maintenance issue. They tried to call us, and I'm like, well, what number did you use? And she gave me a number for the 656 area code, which I have no idea what that is. That might be Jupiter. I don't know. It might be Manitoba. I have no idea what the 656 area code is, but it's not my area code on my cell phone, and she couldn't tell me even what number she was looking at. Like, where did that number come from?
I've never even heard that. Google says that in 2022 that's going to become part of the Tampa area code in addition to the 813. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
They're coming from the future, these people.
Yeah, so there's not even a 656 currently on the market. It's weird they couldn't get a hold of anyone. There's not even a 656 area code. So they're like, yeah, we tried to call you. And I'm like, okay, well, there's other means of communication, and explain to me where that number came from, because I have no idea what it is. I would have never. And she's like, I don't know. Maybe it's like the Priceline 1-800 number. And I'm like, well, I think that would be a 1-800 number. I don't think they have a Priceline 1656 number. But anyway, so they had set us up with another hotel a mile down the road that was another Marriott property. So we got there. That's fine. But we went through all that. It was a nightmare of a day to get all the way up here. And then I'm thinking, of course they're going to lose. And we're going to be right back on the road Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, they had a 23-7 lead. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Just make this easy on yourselves. Make it easy on me and my heart. And no. And in fact, I went and sat with Stephanie for some of the second half of the game, especially when it was close, because frankly, she had better seats than I did. And she had her Apple Watch on, and we were both so worried about having them losing and having to leave immediately. Her heart rate was at 110. Watching a college basketball game where, no offense to her, she might be able to name 3 players on the court, maybe 4. But yeah, that's how, and I was invested too. I audibly yelled, "What the blank," when Scotty Barnes got that rebound and threw a baseball pass that was intercepted right at midcourt with a 9-point lead in the ball, and they immediately hit the 3 to cut it to 6. I yelled audibly with kids around, with I'm wearing a mask. Maybe people didn't hear me. So So all that being said, that's why now I'm easy. I've made it the whole way. It's worth the trip. We've been up here for 3 or 4 days now. It just would have been a nightmare to have to turn around. But not that anybody cared about any of that. That was just, I wanted people to know that I wasn't being a Homer fanboy as much as I just wanted to stay in the city for an extra couple days. And they gave that to me because their defense was really good. Their shooting was atrocious, but their defense was really good, and Raekwon made enough plays down the stretch to win the game.
I mean, they've shot 52%.
Raekwon Gray, I should specify.
Yeah, no, he shot lights out.
Yeah.
He's really good. Again,
yeah.
I think at some point in January or so, when he'd done 3 or 4 games in a row of this sort of production, we're like, hey, this guy's he's kind of doing stuff. He's putting himself on the radar, maybe making himself some money. And he's doing work in the paint, man. They talk about the weight room. They had no answer for him. Balsha also was kind of a bit of a revelation. Thought he did quite well, 6 of 9 from the floor at 13 points, 9 rebounds. That always helps out the cause. But yeah, I mean, despite the fact that they played that way, Corey, and that it was a little bit, nip and tuck for a long part of that game. Again, they still won by 10 points. They kind of came close to the number. So I'm not that. I think there was a lot of like hand wringing and teeth gnashing going on the website. Like, hey, we're not going to make it past Colorado if we play like that again. Which probably is true.
Yeah, that's true.
I just don't know how likely it is that they will replicate that. I just don't know.
But here's my worry with it, and it's not a worry. I know people think of me as like a pessimist and Debbie Downer because of the Atlanta sports fandom, but Scotty Barnes isn't right. Like, I watched him. He hobbled a lot of that game. I don't know if they were showing it on TV, but he was hobbling and grimacing, and then he went to the bench and had trainers looking at his leg. I don't know what, ankle, knee, I don't know. But I think he's been that way for a good portion of the year, and for whatever reason, he did not look himself at all. Like, he didn't even look all that energetic. He just didn't look himself. And I think he's really troubled with something injury-wise. He's playing through it, but that wasn't the Scotty Barnes that we've seen. Just active, athletic. None of it seemed there. And MJ, we know, is my man did it again. Like, literally lays on the court. Jim Brown's it off the court. And then I think it would have been 90 seconds later, he's sprinting back on. It's awesome. I know Florida State fans are like, all right, MJ, just tell us when you're going to be sprinting back on the court. And he had a big layup there when the game was still relatively close in the final minute. It was a good take on that big kid. It was a really good finish. But MJ quite clearly isn't himself either. So me saying that means, and I'm not trying to give them an excuse, but if Scotty and MJ are this health-wise, like they're just not themselves, I don't know. The ceiling of this team is probably a Sweet 16 at best. Like, they just – I watched Baylor on Sunday. Florida State can't compete with those guys if Scotty Barnes isn't close to 100%. And if MJ Walker is this MJ Walker. They just, Raekwon Gray can only do so much. So that's where I was like, man, they can get through this game, see what happens. Maybe 2 days of rest will help them. But I don't like their prognosis isn't good for the rest of this tournament if Scotty and MJ play like that. And I don't want to say they played poorly because I don't know how hurt they did play poorly, obviously, but I don't know how hurt they are. And so I hate to like rip on kids. Like, I always tried to like hold back with Marvin Wilson because we didn't know what was going on with him. Yeah. Durden too. And it turns out Marvin said he had a torn meniscus or something.
Yeah.
That he played with.
Yeah.
So you don't want to necessarily say, oh man, he played awful without knowing his injury history. But I'm just telling you, watching Scotty, he waved himself out of a game after being in there for 3 minutes in the first half, which was really, that's when I was like, oh, that's odd, because he hadn't played long enough to be really tired. And then he immediately went and sat down. Some coaches talked to him. A trainer came up and was looking at him, and it's like, yeah, man, he's just not right. He's going to rough it out. He's going to gut through it, but he's not the same. If he's not completely healthy, that it's a really tough hill to climb to even get by Colorado, and then after that to keep winning will be really tough. If these guys, if we had the January versions of Scotty Barnes and MJ Walker, I'd like their chances a lot later on tonight. But that version that we saw Saturday, where they both were tentative and hesitant and hobbled, it's going to be tough.
But the whole 18, isn't it where the 18 strong thing kind of comes into play? Like some sort of combination of like Anthony Polite and Raekwon Evans maybe, and Malik Osborne didn't really contribute a lot offensively.
Right.
Sardar still kind of maybe first time jinx or first time jitters. I mean, those guys can kind of help pick up some of the slack.
Sure, they can, but to a point. Like, when you have a great player like Scotty Barnes, if he's not himself, that no matter how many guys you have, you don't have another Scotty Barnes that can impact on both sides of the court. You just don't.
But like they've never relied on Scotty the way that Oklahoma State relies on Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley in Southern Cal.
Yeah, it's the little things though. He's not going to get 22 out of them, but he can take over games at times when it matters, and he can draw and dish. He can dominate games without scoring. He can make, or not even dominate. He can make a big impact on a game. And I was telling Stephanie in the second half of that game, it'd be nice if Scotty Barnes actually realized this could be this last NCAA tournament game and actually played like leave an impact, make an impact on this game, man. You're a potential lottery pick. You've got to make an impact. And he just wasn't. It just wasn't there. And that's why. And it just didn't seem like his energy was even there. And that's what led me to believe. Plus, like I said, all the hobbling, that he might be hurt. But yeah, I'm not talking about, Scotty Barnes. You're not expecting Scotty Barnes to get you 22, but he can get you 10 and 6, and together that's 22, 24 points. I would say on that game on Saturday, he contributed. I don't know how many assists he had, 2 maybe. He contributed like 8 points total. He had 4 points and maybe a couple of assists. He can usually sometimes he can account for 22 or 24 points. Plus, he was giving them points with some bad turnovers.
Yeah, 5.
And that's just not. Yeah, that's not him normally. Though he can't be turning the ball over like that. So again, I don't think he's 100% right, or maybe it was just a really bad day. Maybe he was really nervous for because it was his last tournament. But yeah, I don't even think he shot in the first half.
No, you're right. I mean, something's definitely bothering him. I would just like to think that there's some combination of guys that can emerge and help
the
pick
problem
up the
though.
slack.
Yeah, Polite. I thought Polite played pretty well. Nobody hit shots. But look, man, I don't want to kill the kid. Raekwon Evans has played in the last 11 games. He's 5 of 33 from the floor, with 16 assists and 14 turnovers. He's made 5 baskets in 11 games. He's shooting whatever that is, 16%. He was 0 for 2 in that game. He made a couple of nice feeds. He at least had a positive impact on offense with a couple of passes, but he's a net negative when he's on the court. So Scotty Barnes has got to be the one to pick up the slack for him. And it's just, if he's that guy, then you could be in real trouble. But he might come out tonight and be his normal self. And, you get 14 and 6 and 6 from him with 3 steals. That's always a possibility. Maybe Raekwon hits a couple shots and feels good. But yeah, it's just when 2 of your 3 best players are not 100%, quite obviously, that's tough for anyone. And I remember we had this, the same thing I thought with a few years ago against Gonzaga. It's like we all thought because they played so well against Murray State, like, oh, they got a real good shot against Gonzaga. I'm like, well, don't overlook how important Kofor and Nichols are to the rotation. And we just can't overlook. You can have all the depth you want. There's a reason that Scotty Barnes and MJ Walker lead you in minutes with Raekwon Gray. They're your best players. And Calhoun can be really good. He could be really, really good next year. But he and Evans aren't Scotty and Raekwon, Scotty and MJ when they're both right. So, but all that being said, I really thought it was a nice win because you don't win when you don't hit threes. It just doesn't happen in basketball anymore. To be outscored by 21 points at the 3-point line and still find a way to win the game. Credit to Raekwon and Bossa for the way they came out to start the second half after they hit that. What they go out? I think like a 19-4 run to tie the game. They hit that 3 to make it 29-all right out of halftime, and then Florida State scored the next 12 points. Completely took control of the game, and that's one thing that I thought was encouraging. If you wanted to be encouraged by that performance, and again, you won. That's all that matters. Ask Ohio State. Like, you won the game. You're at least still alive. You're still getting to lament your players being not 100% healthy, and oh man, I hope they shoot well. But your team's still alive. It's in the tournament. Illinois ain't. Ohio State isn't. So be happy that they're there. But I thought it was, Raekwon Gray said it after the game, like in their last few losses, they had let their poor offense turn into negative defense. Like they didn't lock up the game defensively, even when they were struggling offensively. They let that bother them on the other side. And I thought they did a really good job. I mean, that they were all over UNC Greensboro. Like They locked those dudes up. And I know they're not a Pac-12 team. They're certainly not Michigan. But they got some guys that can play, man. It's a mid-major that's used to winning games. And that Miller kid's terrific. And Bossa was all over them. Like, they always got Bossa in the switch because that's what they wanted. And Colorado's going to do the same thing with their great point guard. But the way Bossa moved his feet, the way he kept his hand in his face and made it hard for that kid to get vision and to shoot. The kid scored 17 points, but he did it on 18 shots, that's good defense. And a lot of the time you had a 7'1" sophomore guarding him. And that shouldn't be lost in the shuffle. That's the stuff that doesn't show up in box scores. But, man, Bossa was really good defensively. And the whole team was good defensively. They just did a terrific job of when the game mattered to completely lock them down and make it really hard. Even the shots they hit, they were 19 of 60, Greensboro was. And I bet 14 of those 19 were highly contested shots that they just made. I thought it was really impressive the way they played defensively. But the counter to that, obviously, is if they shoot like that again offensively, they're just not going to win. You're at a point now in the tournament where you can't beat anyone by going 0 from 3. It's just not going to happen. Colorado's got too many dudes that can play, and even if you play really well defensively, they're going to make some shots because they're talented. And if you're sitting there scoring 60 points on 0 for 9 from 3, you're not going to win that game. Well, but hey, at least I'm here, right? Yeah. I'm here to watch a second round game or a round of 32 game, whatever we're calling it. That's all that matters.
Again, man, they won by 10. They shot terribly, and I don't know how much carryover you have from game 1 to game 2 when you're not a Cinderella. Cinderella kind of gets that momentum building, but when you're a Power 6, whatever we consider these kind of programs, I just feel like every game is completely different, and I kind of just like the fact that they did play so poorly and were able to, kind of win that game in a fairly comfortable manner. Although, man, the Pac-12 is kind of scary. Good grief.
Yeah, man.
Oregon State trounced Tennessee. Colorado, I thought they were going to cover against Georgetown, but they pounded Georgetown. UCLA upset, BYU. Southern Cal handled Drake quite easily. That conference, those teams are playing pretty darn well. So I am definitely much more concerned about Colorado and McKinley Wright than I was, 72 hours ago.
That score, they put up almost 100. They hit 16 threes. They were 16 of 25, and that's what I wrote in my story on Warchant. It's like two teams couldn't have won games more differently than Florida State and Colorado. Florida State was 0 for. Colorado was 16 of 25 from 3 and almost scored 100. And we're up by 30 in the second half. Like, they crushed that. So part of you, if you're a Florida State fan, is like, well, okay, hopefully they got all that out of their system. Like, and if you look at Colorado's stats, they're not a great three-point shooting team. They've had some great days, but they've also had some terrible days, kind of like Florida State. But they're not like an incredible three-point shooting team. Now, they are the best free throw shooting team in the country.
Yeah. And
I think I saw a stat where they're on pace to maybe be the best free throw shooting team of all time in college history if they keep this percentage that they currently have. They're like 82.5, which is insane for a college team. So you don't want to foul them because they're gonna like, UNC Greensboro, the Miller kid missed the front end of 2 1-and-1s, crucial 1-and-1s. When they were still in that game. They could have cut it to 5, I think, or 3 a couple times, and he missed 2 straight 1-and-1s. Don't expect Colorado to do that. But also, you wonder, okay, is that good for Florida State? That, number one, Florida State can't shoot any worse, and Colorado probably can't shoot any better. So if Colorado comes back to earth and Florida State goes back to what they normally do, that should bode well for the Seminoles. But then you also wonder, man, some teams just get hot. Sometimes some teams just start feeling good about themselves and go on runs where they hit, 15 threes for 3 straight games. So who knows how it'll go. But it'll be in a different building than what either one of them played on Saturday. So that's also probably good news for Florida State.
Yeah, where are you going to be at later tonight?
It's called the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, maybe. It's where IUPUI plays.
Okay.
Yeah. Indiana University, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. That's what it stands for.
Crushed it. Had a guy.
Yeah, I did. We looked it up earlier because I wasn't quite sure. I thought it was Indiana and Purdue, but I wasn't sure. And I think they also, that arena hosts like hockey, like minor league hockey, maybe.
Nice.
But it's not, you go from Bankers Life, which is where the Pacers play, which is awesome. It's just this beautiful field house. It's not Hinkle and it's not Lucas Oil Stadium. It's like the, it's the redheaded stepchild of the arenas that are left over here. But I should have a better seat anyway, and that's all that matters because they ain't got no club level at our Indiana Farmers. It's just a bunch of bleachers. Like, here you go, man. Good luck. So hopefully I'll be closer to the court this time.
By the way, the record is the 83-84 Harvard Crimson, 82.2%. Colorado was at 82.16 going into their game against Georgetown, and they were 12 of 14, which is almost 86%. So, yeah, they got that in their sights. 7:45 TBS, right, Corey?
That's right. 7:45 TBS. Got to love these late starts. By the way, what's the deal with Sunday? Like, we're recording this now at like 5 p.m. There's only been 2 games played.
I don't want to talk about it.
Why did they do them all at night? Why wouldn't they do them all during the day and have like one game's not going to end until almost 1 in the morning? Like that doesn't make any sense from a TV standpoint, like a rating standpoint.
Yeah,
I just feel like you should have more during the day.
Yeah, give some love to the West Coast. There's a couple million people that live in Pacific Standard Time, so you want them to get some primetime games. But it's crazy that they went this whole I guess church too. Obviously, NFL always does 1 p.m. kickoff, so. I don't know, but yeah, it was a bit of a bummer to not get overwhelmed and overloaded as soon as I rolled out of bed late on Sunday.
It's also going to be weird watching second-round games on, like, Monday afternoon. Or Monday, period. But, like, Monday afternoon at noon, there's going to be a game on. That's kind of odd.
All right, mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT. They will match your deposit 100% of the value. I think up to $1,000 maybe. Corey, you had some good ones, I think, other than, Cleveland State, but that was wishful thinking on your part.
Right, yeah. And they hung with them for a bit.
Yeah.
And then Houston put the hammer down, and that was that.
All right, I'm going to go with this one for everybody on Monday. Again, this is all for entertainment purposes. Do what you want with your money. It is your money. You've earned it. How about let's join these stocks together. I'm going to take Oregon straight up as a dog. I'll give Abilene 5. I like UCLA. I like the way they're playing. I'm going to stick with the Cinderella of Ohio. Let's keep it kind of simple-ish. I don't want to. 3 games is enough to kind of keep your eye on. I'll say that much. So we'll do those 3 games. If you put, let's go crazy. Let's say $10. You can win $156. It's got to have Oregon straight up to beat Iowa. Well-rested Oregon. They advanced via COVID. UCLA keep their hot streak against the Abilene Christian team that was absolutely terrible, but Texas just, soiled themselves for 40 freaking minutes. And then a guy that's been shooting 58.8% from the stripe nails both. And Ohio's just a great story. So, and Creighton didn't look all that good against Santa Barbara. Now I said that Santa Barbara was going to beat Creighton, so this is my make good for all of y'all. Oregon straight up, UCLA give the 5, Ohio straight up. You get like 15-1 odds on that. You're welcome, everybody. Go check them out. MyBookie.ag, promo code WARCHANT.
Yeah, that was crazy, that Texas Abilene Christian game with that kid. It was a foul, too. They never call that. But he was hacked. The guy, basically punched him in the chest as he was going for the loose ball. So I'm glad they called it. And then it was whatever. It seemed like a 4 or 5 minute delay, because it always is at the end of games where they have to go to the monitor for this or that. And then can't they just have, monitors on their bodies? Aren't we improved technologically enough now that they could just pick up a phone and look at it right there real quick? They got to stop the game. And I tell you what else, man. If you stop the game to go look at a monitor, the players have to stay on the court. They need to go to the other side of the court away from their coaches.
Yeah, like in boxing, go to the neutral corner.
Yeah, man, I'm tired of them getting all these free timeouts. Yeah. It almost was a point where you don't need to hold on to timeouts, because the refs are going to go look at something, and you're going to get a free timeout anyway. So if you have to go to the monitors, the players are not allowed to leave the paint. How about that?
Okay. I'm with you.
Or they can be on the other side of the. No, you don't have to crowd them all. We are battling COVID. You don't have to crowd them all in one paint, but they can't go past the paint towards their own coaching staff. If the coaches want to yell something to them from 40 feet away, have at it. But the other team can hear it too, because that's how life works, man. You shouldn't get free timeouts because the referees don't know if it hit off a guy's foot or not. But anyway, man, can you imagine being the parent of that kid as he sits for those 2 free throws? And that's how I always look at it now, because I'm a parent. But, I know the kid was nervous. But, oh, my gosh, I can't even imagine. What would my heart rate have been if that was Brady in that moment? It would have been 180. I'd be honest with you. Even if I was there, I would walk outside. I don't think I could watch. I literally don't think I don't know that I could watch. Just because you worry, not because, my son did something great or bad. It's I worry so much for him. And it's I wouldn't be able to handle the pressure of him not coming through in that moment, and how disappointed and crushed he would be. So I don't know, man. I don't.
You wouldn't be worried about the Twitter mob that came after Ohio State players?
No,
That's what
man.
I would be concerned about.
Turn your Twitter off. Those guys are clowns. Don't even give them the benefit of that. Don't even give them
the oxygen.
Don't even care about them, because they're idiots. But so just straight up onions to be 59% and to nail 2 with the second left. That was in the first one was as pure as it can get.
Yeah.
So tournament, man. I know VCU had to cancel. I know Oklahoma had to play without their second leading scorer, and Georgia Tech had to play without Moses Wright. But man, it's not the greatest, but it's really cool that we still get to have this thing.
It's great. No, it's the greatest tournament ever, man. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a basketball guy by trade. I'm a football guy, but this weekend has been absolutely amazing. I love it, man. I really do. Well, let's move on to football. I was going to share some other thoughts on basketball, but who cares about my opinion when it comes to basketball? There was a scrimmage. Didn't even realize they were going to have it open to us, Corey. I just kind of inadvertently read an email that I get, pretty much every time there's a practice availability kind of we record the interviews as they happen, and then we post them up first because that's what we do at Warchant. We do everything first class, first rate, first in line. And it's usually, hey, this email's got the interviews from Coach Norvell from earlier in the day if you would like to use them. And for some reason, I opened the email, which why would I open it? I don't need it. We're already done with it. And in the bottom of the email, it says, Saturday scrimmage will be open to the media. Use gate C. And I'm like, what?
Mike Norvell, baby.
Look at this
Mike
guy.
effing Norvell coming through.
It was, and if you somehow caught wind of that, you were able to show up too. I mean, they had security at the gate, and there was over 100 people, I would say, just kind of came out to watch their Noles play on Saturday. So, what do you want to know from me, Corey, since you weren't there and I was there? Although I'm sure you probably watched the 20-minute wrap-up that Ira, Gene, and myself did on YouTube because you're a dedicated journalist.
Not only did I do that, but I also no, that's not true. I did not do that, but I did read the updates.
Okay.
I read the the scrimmage thread.
Yes.
So my man Ward, so they're in full pads, right? Paint the scene. It's like a normal, like they're getting tackled, correct?
Yeah, they treated that about as game-like as you can. Like when you get to the stadium early, you see them warming up, like they have their offensive line is in like one corner of the end zone, defensive line's in the other corner, DBs are on one sideline. Like they were in full pregame mode, doing the warm-ups, doing the drills they do beforehand. And then the first thing they went and did, they started off with, I thought they just were going to start off with red zone goal line stuff, but they put it at the 2, and I guess that was their 2-point conversion kind of play to start things off with. And the first one, bang, Jordan Travis to Pokey Wilson for it. But yeah, they were in full pads. It was as close to a game-like situation as you could probably create in an intra-squad situation.
So is Trayshawn like the real deal? Like where were the other running backs? Like he obviously had the biggest day out of the running backs. Were they all getting similar reps? Trayshawn Ward, by the way, folks, who was a walk-on, but walk-on doesn't seem to matter to this coaching staff. If you can play, they're going to play you. So explain that. Like, was he getting more reps than anyone else?
Yeah, sure seemed like it. I don't remember seeing DJ Williams play all that much, the transfer from Auburn. Toafili was in the mix. Toafili did most of his damage on screen passes. He had a couple carries that he was able to get some big yards on. He also got popped at the end and fumbled. Jarian Jones, I think, caused the fumble. But Trayshawn Ward just kept getting the ball and pretty much kept doing good things with it. Now, Ira and Gene were really excited about how he performed, and I was a little bit more cautiously optimistic about it, per my nature, but they both shot me down. I hate to be the guy that sits here and tells you, like, this guy looked awesome, and then when September rolls around, you're like, hey, Aslan, what happened to that guy that was supposed to look awesome? So I kind of, take everything I kind of say with a grain of salt. I don't want to disappoint you all. But, yeah, man, he busted off, I think, 2 runs of like 30-plus yards. It just seemed to be so slow developing where I just feel like when it's a real game, there's more urgency. The game is moving that much faster. He's not going to have that much time to kind of jaunt through these creases and then bust them out for more yards. But maybe that's just simply the way he runs. Maybe he's just really patient and has really good timing and knows when to hit the hole and hit his burst and bust through. Because, it wasn't him like – these weren't like you could just drive a bus through these holes. It wasn't like Dalvin Cook freak show running around a corner at 100 miles an hour and actually accelerating as you hit the corner. And this was him just kind of being patient, biding his time, and then busting through the hole and shedding some tackles, some arm tackles and stuff. So he did look very good. But, again, Ja'Shawn Corbin's still in the mix. Just for whatever reason wasn't getting as many reps as usual as you would think. And Lawrence kind of same boat. I think maybe just Trayshawn was kind of hot-handed. They kept rolling with him. Or they're just trying to give guys like that more opportunities because if you did not know anything about this team and you showed up to that practice, you would have thought that number 18 is the starting quarterback because Tate Rodemaker had to have been out there at least on a 2-to-1 ratio of reps to Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton. I mean, he was out there all the time.
How'd he look?
He had some passes. I mean, he had some throws.
Okay,
that's
all I needed to hear. He had some passes. Let's move on.
He had some throws. He wasn't captain check down, but again, that was a lot of mix and match. And when he was out there, it was a lot of mixing and matching of the second team and third team defenses and plugging in guys that probably aren't going to contribute a lot. Now, granted, he wasn't out there with the ones all that much. They gave him, I think, 1 or 2 series with the first team offensive line and first team skilled players. But yeah, there's some growth there. And Kenny was quite high, talking, or I shouldn't say high. That sounds like he's doing something that's not appropriate.
Right.
But he was quite excited about the performance out of Tate and just the overall strides he's made compared to where he was last year and kind of the ways that we saw him struggle on Saturdays this past season. But Norvell thinks that McKenzie's made huge strides, made great strides in the week and a half that they've been practicing. I don't think he really had a particularly crisp scrimmage. I don't remember him making that many big plays. But if they like what they're seeing from him, I will defer to their judgment. And Jordan started off hot. I think the first sort of full out part of the sequence they had, or possession you want to call it, he moved them down quite nicely. I mean, quite effectively. They scored a touchdown on it. So
yeah, wasn't the first one like a 90-yard drive or a 95-yard drive or something?
Yeah. So. And they had some third down conversions in there and stuff. So, but ultimately, man, I thought it was kind of like a stalemate, which ultimately I think, we've talked about this. And, do you want to see the offense play really good this spring? Or you really want to see the defense play really good? And if you want to be a cynic, you could just say that this team is inconsistent, which is probably true to a certain degree. But I'm going to be a little bit optimistic here. I just think that what you saw was two sides of the ball playing good. And when you go good on good, one side's going to win a couple of these reps, a couple of these snaps, and the other one's going to win a couple of the reps and a couple of the snaps. So the offense moved the ball nicely. They were able to convert some third and fourth downs, but at the same time, there were some fourth down stops. There was a goal line stand the defense had. There was Travis J had a nice pass breakup, had a real good pop in the open field. Amari had a real good tackle. Jarring again created another turnover. So you saw a couple of glimpses of the defense. And, I guess offensively, Dante went out early. They don't have Devontae Love-Taylor. They're still waiting on Andrew Parchment to roll into town. So they're not nearly at full strength. But defensively, man, Keir Thomas has not played. Mako Dotson has not been out there. And he wasn't out in the practice that I went to. He was not playing in the scrimmage. Renardo Green was not participating. Robert Cooper was not participating. I feel like Jermaine Johnson really wasn't utilized all that much because they probably know that he just wrecks everybody and they want to give the offense a semblance of a chance.
Well,
and stuff,
and people might hear that and say, "Man, that's you can't coach like that." Jimbo Fisher coached like that in 2013, and remember that offensive line. He told me, he's like, "Look, there were some times we couldn't run plays because of Jernigan. Like Jernigan would wreck them so much that they couldn't work on things. So he would intentionally tell them to sit Jernigan out so they could actually work on things." So in that regard, in that offensive line, they all played in the NFL except one, and that turned out to be a pretty good offense. So don't maybe take too much issue with that or be too concerned by maybe letting Jermaine Johnson just play a few snaps here and there because you're trying to work on some things offensively. Because that happens. Coaches do that a lot. I can promise you it happened. I can't imagine it didn't happen in the 90s with Wilson and Boulware. Like, what would have been the fun of that practice? Every 3 seconds, you're blowing the whistle. Like, all right, start it again, 2nd and 14. All right, 3rd and 19. Like, you got to work on some stuff. And some guys are just really, really hard for everyone to block. And you want your guys to it's not just about confidence. It's about working on, actually being able to work on plays and go through progression. So that does happen every now and again. And that's because I didn't see Jermaine Johnson's name mentioned a lot. And I did see that the offense did seem to move the ball a good bit. I was wondering what the defensive line looked like, what the makeup of it was, and then how much did somebody like Jermaine Johnson even play?
Yeah, he was out there with the ones on the first possession. I think he went out on the second one too, but other than that, he was. I don't remember seeing him out on the field. Not that I recall. I think he was on the sideline for most of it. And Mike Norvell did say in his post scrimmage comments that part of what they wanted to do was to not have. He's talked about they didn't want to have a lot of pressure, and I don't think he was talking about game pressure, situational pressure. I think it was like defensively they didn't want to bring a lot of blitzes, a lot of just pin the ears back kind of stuff. So again, that kind of falls or dovetails, I think, into why. If you were concerned, where's Jermaine Johnson at? I mean, he literally was not playing all that much, and I think it's because they just know how dynamic he is and just how productive he's going to be if he can stay healthy. So I wouldn't worry about that. And, I mean, and the last thing I would just say, at least offensively, Jordan Travis doesn't make sense to me. People think I don't like this kid. got no animus to him whatsoever. I want to win a whole bunch of football games. It's good for everybody. We win football games. His elusiveness just doesn't make sense to me. He obviously is fast, but I don't think he's that fast. But nobody can ever get him. He's so deceptively elusive, and I guess just has really good feel because I don't. Part of it might be the fact that they know no matter what they can't touch the quarterback. But man, they're going after him. Like they're trying to go after him and Mackenzie Mill. They're trying to sack these guys. But I think even if they were live, and this is Mackenzie to a certain degree too. Mackenzie had some good, had some good scrambles and was able to evade pressure quite nicely too. Man, and I guess if you want to be cynical, you may be, well, the defense needs to work on wrapping up and containing, and yeah, you're right. But man, he does not get tackled for. I mean, the only way he gets tackled for losses is if he's got to do some sort of like play action where he doesn't have his eye in front of him. I mean, he just keeps flushing out of the pocket, scrambling for 11 yards. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. And it reminds me of back in the day, as being a Braves fan, I always bring it back to that. And I might have made this comparison before. I'm sure I have. Andrew Jones, the center fielder, never looked like he was running hard after a ball. And sometimes he didn't when he first came up, and he actually got pulled in the middle of a game once for doing that. But even when he was at full speed, it looked like, there's just some of these athletes that just glide. Yeah. They don't look like they're really exerting a ton. Like, man, run. But nobody's coming close to catching them. And I think Jordan's one of those guys that just glides. It doesn't look like Michael Vick. Like,
right,
and he's not Michael Vick. He's not as fast as Michael Vick. But, like, when Michael Vick is running as hard as he can, buddy, everything is,
blur.
You can tell. It's a blur. With Jordan, it's just so graceful. But he have a 90-yard run against Pitt? Nobody caught him then. He's just so elusive, and it's not just – I mean, it's real speed. I don't know what he's timed in the 40, but that's real speed, man, that translates. And it never looks like he's running hard. Like I said, like some of these great center fielders. It's some receivers that you could mention over the years where they're so graceful in their strides. It's like Brady Clark out in center field for Mill Creek baseball. I mean, he's running and it just looks like a gazelle, just like a gazelle out for a nice nice jog, and he goes and tracks it down. So some of those people just have that, man. Like when you and I run, especially when I ran, I mean, I'm firing everything as fast as I can, and I look like I look ridiculous. My head's bobbing, everything, and Jordan Travis just runs like he's on skates almost, like just nice ice skating on the pond or something. He's just blowing by everyone. It's nuts. Graceful kid, graceful athlete.
Kick game.
So was he the better quarterback?
Yeah.
Was it hard to tell though? I mean, I know it's a small sample size, especially with Rodemaker getting so many reps.
Yeah, I have my notepads in the other room, and I don't have enough slack on my headphones to walk and grab my notepad so I can look at the plays. Actually, you know what? Let me just go to warchant.com, right? We God bless Ira and Gene. I mean, it was blustery. It was quite cold. It was not very enjoyable to be in the stadium. Just having to deal with the elements, man. It was like a fall Midwestern day in the stadium, nice. But they did a great job of tracking everything, so I'll pull it up here. So Travis was 6 of 10 for 63. Mackenzie was 9 of 17 for 133. So make of that what you will.
All right.
I don't remember Mackenzie completing 9 passes, to be honest with you. But again, like it was just I didn't know what to look at. I'm like, are we all just going to track the same thing? Because we're all sitting here looking at the same thing and trying to put down how many yards that was and. I was going to focus on the defense. And I'm like, okay, but like, what am I focusing on? Like, I was looking at the defensive line for a couple plays, but then you're looking at the defensive line, but the ball's getting run to the outside, and you're like, what I just wasted a rep? I wasted a rep, Corey. Trying to get 1% better. Just wasted a rep. But again, I think take the words of your head coach and your offensive coordinator, and they do like the way Mackenzie's responding. And again, man, it's early, man. It's practice 6 for him. They're treating him, they said, like, even though he's a fifth-year senior, they're treating him like he's a guy that's first time in the program to try and get fully up to speed. So the more that starts kind of clicking, it's only a matter of time, I think, before he, we see the form that made him such a highly sought-out transfer and a national championship winning quarterback in some circles. So I'm excited.
Well, it's a very small circle.
It's Orange County, Florida, baby.
Yeah, big I don't even think anybody, everybody there is probably as many Florida fans as there are Central Florida fans. So it was a very small circle even inside that county, I would imagine.
Kick game, they do a game-winning field goal afterwards where they pretty much line the field like a gallery at a golf tournament.
Yep.
And I don't know who kicked it because they couldn't even see it, and I had left. But Ira said they made it, whoever it was. So I don't know if it was Fitzgerald or Grotehouse. They also made there was a 30-yard field goal that Grotehouse hit. Fitzgerald, I think, kicked an extra point, so that was good. Punting, though, not very good. Go listen to the interview with Mike Norvell. The question I asked him and his response, Cliff Notes, he's not happy about it either. So plenty of time to figure that stuff out.
Well, you know what? Then don't punt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe coach your offense a little better so you don't have to punt so much.
Solved.
Or at all.
They'll be back practicing this week, but I don't think we'll be out there. I think this week there's nothing for media availability in terms of going and watching the practice. But nonetheless, there'll be interviews. We'll do them, and we'll talk about them on this podcast. On the way out, Corey, congrats to Lonnie and the Lady Seminoles softball team, or rather just the softball team. Kennesaw State went down. They went down hard, 11-0, and Auburn 10-1 against. They were supposed to have their first ACC series against North Carolina, but I think health protocols shut that down. So kind of last second, Auburn's like, hey, y'all want to come out here and hang out? And they're like, yeah, we'll come ruin your guys' weekend. So 2 big wins coming off that series victory over Arizona. Shout out to them. And then the baseball team. You can't spell.
Well, they did lose. I don't want to point out that they did lose to Auburn on Sunday, 2-1.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they beat Kennesaw State 3-2 on Sunday, but then lost. So they went 3-1 on the weekend, but they did lose to Auburn 2-1 on Sunday.
Sometimes we can be factually correct, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Your softball, or rather your volleyball team, Corey, they went 4-0 this weekend. Wins over number 4 Stetson, Florida Gulf Coast, UAB, and number 12 FAU. Took them down.
You're talking about the beach volleyball team.
Beach volleyball team, correct. Sorry.
Are we in the midst of the best college beach volleyball team in history? Like, every time we get a release from that team, not only do they go undefeated, but they're beating like a top 5 team or a top 1 team all the time. This might be like the 27 Yankees of beach volleyball. I wouldn't know how to compare it, but maybe this is legitimately the best beach volleyball college team of all time.
They're 17-0. They've beat number 6
play
Cal Poly,
great
number
teams.
8 Loyola Marymount, number 1 LSU, 19 Georgia State. FAU was 11 when they played them earlier in this month. Number 10 TCU. Grand Canyon was 11th when they played them. To add again to Stetson and FAU from this past weekend. So
doing it. Brooks over there doing it, man. Hey, we got to finish the drill, though.
Yeah.
Got to finish the drill, though. Got to bring home the title.
No
pressure.
You don't get a live remote podcast for, just showing up to Orange Beach, Gulf Shores. Where do they play?
Yeah, Texarkana. I'm not sure where they play that. Floribama. I'm not sure where they play that thing. But yeah, you can't lay claim to be the best college beach volleyball team of all time if you don't win the national title. So that's got to be the final thing for them.
Final thing for us, this baseball team. You cannot spell nepotism without sweep, Corey Clark. Took down Miami, 3-game set in Mark Light Field. Absolute, utter domination to package along with what they did Tuesday night against Florida. They outscored their in-state rivals, the ones that matter, 44-4.
Yeah.
This team's figuring stuff out, liking it.
I mean, and Florida's number 5 in the country. Miami was number 6, right?
Yep.
And Florida State was unranked, and I have a feeling they're going to be ranked pretty high now, even with that sweep at home to Pitt. But man, that's incredible. I mean,
I don't want to make excuses because I'm not a big excuse guy, but for some reason I have a little bit more affinity for this baseball team. Like, they didn't get destroyed by Pitt. Like, one of those games went to 13 innings, and I think the other one was a 1-run game as well. Now they were losses. They were losses.
Yeah, they blew a lead. They blew a lead late, and they also lost the game 1-0. But it's, again, we knew they could pitch. But what the offense has done, like you said, 44 runs in 4 games against, top 5 competition in Miami. I mean, that's crazy. They had 34 runs in 3 games, and Miami scored 2. I mean, I'm 34-2 in 3 games. That's staggering. And is it just as simple as, hey, Parker and Wyatt, y'all get to hit now? Like that was the biggest adjustment. But look, the biggest change in the offense has been Robbie Martin.
Yeah.
He's a guy, and it shouldn't come down. It shouldn't all be on the shoulders of one kid. But coming into the season, he was the most accomplished and the best hitter on the team, and he struggled for those first 10 games. He looked like a freshman trying to find himself. He did not look like Robbie Martin. And then, the last 5 games, going back to that Virginia Tech game where he hit the grand slam, I mean, he's been maybe the best hitter in the country, certainly the hottest. He had another. Didn't he hit another bomb on Sunday?
Yep.
Had more RBIs. He's got to be close to leading the country in RBIs now. And then Matt Nelson's been pretty darn good all year. He's been probably the most consistent all year. But then you've got Matt Nelson and Robbie Martin, and then Logan Lacey, kind of, to me anyway, kind of comes out of nowhere and becomes like a legitimate college hitter, like a good college hitter. So you've got now Tyler Martin, who is never going to be a power hitter, but he's going to get on base. Logan Lacey, Robbie Martin, and Matt Nelson is your top 4. That's a darn good top 4. Nander's starting to hit.
Yep. Had a home run.
And then Reese Albert should be coming back at some point, you would hope. And he's only going to – he's obviously proven he can hit too. So now you're starting – okay, we knew the pitching was good, and it's been good. I mean, again, they give up 2 – I think I looked it up. So those 4 games, the 4 games this week, which, I tweeted about it. It might be the best week in Florida State baseball history when you consider the competition. To outscore these guys.
He agreed with that. Yeah, I mean, Mike Martin Jr. was asked, is this kind of the most impressive week you've been around? I mean, considering the stakes, obviously it's not Omaha or anything, and he agreed with it. I mean, just what they did was amazing.
Nuts. Because these are legit teams. These are Omaha-type teams.
Yeah.
And they didn't just win. They crushed them. They crushed their spirits. They jumped on them early every game. And the pitching was dominant. So they played 4 games, and they struck out 50 batters in 36 innings. The pitchers did. The Florida State defense didn't make an error all weekend. Miami cannot say that. Miami made plenty. Florida State made 0. And I should go back and look it up, but I can't imagine. I don't think that's happened since I've been on the beat.
Right.
I don't know that it's happened since I've been here. It might have been a J.D. Drew year or something where Florida State's defense went a whole weekend without committing an error. So the point being, you knew the pitching was going to be pretty darn good, and they still haven't gotten all the pieces yet. But the starting pitching's been good, and the bullpen's been pretty darn good too. And let's see what Crowell becomes if he gets more innings, and some other guys that can still get some innings. But if the defense is going to be not bad but actually good, like you're kind of just looking for average with the Florida State baseball defense. But if they're actually good, and then the offense can, they're not going to score 11 runs a game. But if the offense can start hitting like this more consistently, and not just be an on-base team, but a power team. Because, again, that's what I talked about, lamented a couple weeks ago. Is like it wasn't just that their on-base was down, but their slugging was like under 300 as a team, which is awful. Now that's gone way up. They're getting a lot of extra base hits. They're scoring a lot of runs. So you see the makings. If the defense is this or close to this, and the offense can hold up its end of the bargain, certainly like it has here, man, you got yourself a real team here, Meat. You got yourself no matter what. This week was unlike anything we've ever really seen. To beat Florida's number 5 and Miami's number 6, and you just went there and crushed both of them, 44-4. That was nobody. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah, after winning the 2 series against Virginia and Virginia Tech, normal series, you won those games like 7-4, and then just like a switch got flipped. So yeah, it won't last forever. It's baseball, but man, what a week. What a week. Not just you beat your rivals, you crushed your rivals, but RPI-wise, to beat these teams like that, just a huge, huge week for Florida State.
And I think that, I don't know what I think. I was trying to find Robbie Martin where he's at in the league or the national lead for RBIs, and I failed all of us. So
Matt, so I'm looking at it right now. He's now hitting 338 with 4 homers and 24 RBIs. I feel like 6 games ago, he had 0 homers and like 7 RBIs and was slugging under 300. Now he's slugging 560. Matt Nelson has 7 home runs and 22 RBIs and is slugging 764. And then Logan Lacey slugging 527. So again, you're in Parker Messick, and he and Crowell Parker Messick's hitting 364. So yeah, man, now they're slugging 411 as a team. When I brought this up on the show, whenever that was, 9 or 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, they were slugging under 300 as a team. They've already brought it up 111 points, or more than that, and their on-base percentage is now 373. And they've only committed 18 errors this season. And their opponents are hitting 195. I mean, look, man, they got some legit arms, and they have a chance. They're not gonna, like I said, they're not gonna play like this the rest of the year. They're gonna be some ups and downs. But again, like we saw with the Florida State basketball team, we now kind of know what the ceiling of this baseball team is, at least, and they're really, really good when they play well.
Yeah, I did ask, Matt Nelson whether he thinks, obviously they were equipped to deal with a slump, the way they battled back in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech and coming off what they did against Virginia after the Pitt series. But are they equipped to handle success? And he was just totally unflinching about it. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, I don't even think this team realizes how good they can be. And he's so optimistic about what they can become. That's hard not to get excited about what the future is going to hold, because they're gonna have a bad series. I don't know if they got Clemson or something. They might drop that one. They might get swept at some point. But I like what you said there, though. I just think that we got a good glimpse at what this team can become if everything is clicking. And I don't know, man. I believe in meat, man. Sounds weird. I believe in tofu too. It's pretty good. But just for him to diagnose this stuff so quickly and enact so many widespread changes and have them all kind of hit is pretty cool. And I asked him, Joe, I'm like, are you guys – I hate to say that they become more aggressive at the plate, because it wasn't like they just kept looking. It wasn't like they kept going out with the bat on their shoulder every time. They were swinging. They just weren't making any contact. And he just was saying, hey, it was a comedy of errors of us chasing stuff that we shouldn't have chased and sitting on things that we shouldn't have, and guys not seeing it and not believing it and not buying in. And for whatever reason, like it's, I guess the proof's been in the pudding for them, and everybody's kind of feeding off one another. Like Ryan Romano's a guy that we didn't talk about to start the season off. He got hurt, had facial injuries, he's now at third base, and he had a couple times we should have gone go to first, Ryan. Just take the out, man. Take the guarantee out. Stop trying to go to second. But he had a couple RBIs, I think, this weekend, has been pretty solid. Logan Lacey is a guy who started the season because Cabell was hurt. Then when Cabell got healthy, they put him on the bench. And, when Elijah went cold, here comes Logan Lacey back. And you mentioned the top four guys in the batting order, and if Reese Albert comes back. Yeah, they have plenty of options, even if things kind of hit a little bit of a lull at some point. And the pitching is crazy deep what they have and can bring out of the bullpen. So
I mean, look, man, I just look, like I said, the 195 batting average against is unheard of. That's nuts. That's like elite Florida, and Florida's got a great pitching staff too. That's what Florida does. Even then, 195 is crazy.
Three straight series, like ranked teams, like three straight series against ranked teams. Two of them were on the road, at Blacksburg, at Miami, and then at home against Virginia.
And you went, whatever you went, what'd you go? 7-2 in those three series after getting swept by Pitt. Yeah. I mean, after the Pitt sweep, I wasn't straight up panicking, but you wonder, man, is this not? You start to wonder, okay, is this going to be the worst team we've seen? Like, there's no real offense, there's no identity. The pitching's good, but it hasn't been completely dominant, and the defense is still a question mark. Yeah. And then it's completely flipped. And again, I think that shutout on Saturday against Virginia Tech, Meade had finally had it. And he's like, I'm taking a couple guys out, and I'm putting these dudes in because I want them to just put the ball in play. And it's not like Messick and Crowell have been Ruth and Gehrig, but they've been good enough, and they just seem to have changed the complexion of the lineup. And then also these other guys started hitting like All-Americans. But then the pitching, man. So your four starting pitchers, including Carson Montgomery. Bryce Hubbard has a 139 batting average against. He's given up 11 hits in 21 innings.
Real quick, I'm sorry, Corey, I know you're on the roll. But Bryce Hubbard had like two situations where he was in deep trouble, man. Deep trouble, and he battled out and got out of some real big jams on Saturday. That was huge to see.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great for a young pitcher, and that could bode well for the postseason. But then, so his batting average against is 139. Messick is 194. Connor Grady is 209. And then Carson Montgomery, who's your fourth starter, the guy that can't even get in the weekend rotation, his batting average against is 194. They've given up 8 home runs and they've hit 20 as a team. Like all these things, all these measurables that you look at, the differences in power, the differences in strikeouts, batting average against, that's, that it has the makings of a team that has some real potential. And who knows what happens in the postseason? Who knows if they even get to the postseason? It's not a guarantee. They're only 10-6. But 3 weeks ago, it was, it seemed dire. And now you can make an argument, at least last week, they were the best team in the country. Yep. For 1 week anyway, they showed that they can play with anybody in the country. Not only play with them, but pound them. So, yeah, man. Hey, good job, Meade. Good job, buddy.
If everything goes according to plan, Corey, you're going to, I don't know, like 3 more weekends, back in Indianapolis, maybe a summer, 2-week stretch in Omaha. I mean, you're going to be All-American Corey Clark.
I'm telling you, not only that, but Brady's got a tournament, a baseball tournament in Cooperstown.
Let's go!
Around July 4th. So I'm going to be all over this great land of ours. All over. I've already seen the heart of the Midwest and Indianapolis. And yet, by the way, I wanted to bring this up real quick, and then I'm going to let you go. And I brought it up with Stephanie. Who is the lobbyist that came up with this scooter idea for downtown cities, like metropolises? Like, he must be the best lobbyist in the history of the world, because what real purpose do they serve other than having people not having any clue what they're doing, swerving into traffic, or making pedestrians dive out of the way as they come careening out of control? Like, what do they offer the city? Like, Tallahassee tried it, right?
I know Omaha was the only time I've ever done it, when we were in Omaha.
Yeah, but
Brady
I thought Tallahassee tried it, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't think it was successful. Although I do see people every now and then. It's a very small, but it's young kids like in the surrounding neighborhoods. I don't see anybody scooting down Park or College.
Right.
Or,
This is like downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Like huge buildings everywhere. Lots of people walking around. And they're just on your left. And I'm like, who's other than the guy that runs whatever that company is that makes scooters, who's benefiting from this? Why did Indianapolis and Omaha and Tallahassee, and at least Tallahassee makes more sense because you can get from campus to city quicker, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like a 10-block area in Indianapolis where you walk around. You don't need a scooter. And I don't understand what all these cities saw in this, and how this guy needs to be running Seminole boosters, because the guy that's the lobbyist for the scooter cartel in this country, I mean, it is incredible what he did. He pulled the wool over entire cities' eyes, and they're like, yeah, we definitely need him. Oh, and by the way, when you're done, just throw him in the sewer, or lay him down right in front of a restaurant. People will walk over him. It's fine. It's crazy.
But is it like live, work, play in Indianapolis? That's the thing about Tallahassee. There's no downtown residential living other than those high-rise condos that nobody that lives here.
There's a little bit of living. There's not a ton of it. Not a ton of it. It's a lot of just banks and restaurants.
Okay.
And hotels. So again, I haven't seen anybody like on a scooter to work. Again, I've seen a bunch of 14-year-olds going headlong into traffic. But I haven't seen anybody going to work. But again, I've been anti-scooter for a while now, and it might be because Stephanie, that's all she really wants to do while we're here is get on a scooter. Okay. So maybe that's my way of not wanting to do it, voicing my displeasure. All right. Anyway, great win for the baseball team.
Is your next car going to be an electric car, Corey?
No, don't trust them. I don't want to have to plug in every 2 hours before, instead of getting gas, like. If it worked the same as a car, sure, I'm about the environment. I'm cool with it. But I don't want to be on a long road trip, because I take a lot of them, and be like, all right, well, I got to pull over here for 2.5 hours when my car charges. Nobody wants to do that. So, and I don't know how, I might be speaking completely out of my backside, but I feel like it's not just like a 5-minute stop at a gas station. You know what I mean? It's like, right. You have to wait a while for your car to charge. So that's the problem. And I drive a lot.
That's what I was saying. Maybe go electric to help save the environment. Yeah, it's not like, I don't think it's like super fast charging your cell phone. Like, you're going to have to hang out the Busy Bee for a while your car's at the charging station. So. And
another good, so these next 2 nights that I'm in Indianapolis, Sunday night and Monday night, we're staying at a hotel where teams are staying at. Ooh. I can't wait to use that weight room. You heard?
Well,
see if I can sneak in there and act like I could act like an assistant coach at least.
Put the mask on. All right. Monday night, 7:45. Number 5 seeded Colorado, 4 seeded Florida State. East Region winner gets to go to the Sweet 16 to face off against the winner of Michigan and LSU. We'll talk about the game, the outcome, hopefully a good one. Hopefully Corey's in good spirits, and you'll probably be doing it in a car, I imagine, the next podcast, Corey.
Well, if it's anything like the trip up here, yeah, I'll be in a car.
All right. Splendid. Stay connected to warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. This has been Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.